I'm getting better, Brad. I don't know if you noticed, but I think the trick is stop the loop first for your video and then stop the music. It gives you a little bit more time.
It's hard. I wish the buttons were closer together.
Yeah. And then you got to unmute and do all. So welcome to everyone to the Save Our Sites webinar series. This webinar series has a couple of objectives. Our number one objective today is to introduce to you one of our pioneering sponsors at the SOS Alliance. Would you go ahead and introduce yourselves?
Of course. Hello, everyone. My name is Faiz. I am the founder of Digital Auxilius. Basically, Digital Auxilius, the word Auxilius comes from a Latin word called auxilium, which means assistance. So we provide all kinds of digital assistance. And the way that we categorize it is in two different areas. Area number one is digital marketing, 360-degree marketing, branding of a company. So, and then the second part is the software development. So we have some of our own products that we sell, as well as we work on custom product development for different clinical research companies. So we are very heavily invested in clinical research. It is one of our major source of operations. So we work with a lot of different clinical research sites mainly. So the way that we see ourselves is mostly not just like as a vendor for companies, but as an extension for a lot of the research sites. And that's one of the major challenges that we're trying to resolve is when you don't have too much dollars to spend on marketing, you can't bring in too many vendors that are helping you. One is helping you with search engine optimization. One is helping you with a website. One is helping you make flyers. So the way that we see ourselves is like a one-stop shop for all of your needs, whether those are study, whether those are your online presence, technology. So everything in one place. And one of the companies that we started working with about 3 years ago is Revival Research Institute. And I thought it would be great to have them on the call as well, so they can explain their journey, like everything that they have been through with DAX and how they have progressed. So I think it would be a good conversation so that we can also ask their input. And we have Nicole Stiff, who's a corporate operations and business development manager. Nicole, you want to give an intro?
Yes, thank you, Faiz. Thank you, everyone. So my name is Nicole Stiff. I'm the Corporate Operations and Business Development Manager here at Revival Research. So Revival Research we're multiple sites, so we're in multiple states, doing all different sorts of therapeutic areas. So our needs are always different for each site that we're working at, which is another thing that DAX helps with, really understanding those disease states and those patient types, right? So we've been working, I think, for 3 years now together with DAX. And when we started, I can say when Faiz first came in, he just brought a lot to my mind that I would never even think of from a marketing perspective. Our old website was just, a page. It just sat there. And when he showed me things could move and be animated and, more attractive and make people want to stay on that page and really visit and see like who we are, that was kind of a turning point. Like, okay, there's a lot more to this than what we knew as a site, like what to do. So yeah, our journey has been great with DAX so far. It's very personal. Like you said, it's very cost effective. And a lot of things that I see different with DAX from other companies is that they really try and understand us as a company. When they're marketing for our studies, they're always trying to really understand the study and the patients. And I think it gets a little bit deeper reach than just, oh, you have an eczema trial. Let's, push an eczema ad. Well, I gave you 80 leads, why didn't you generate anything from it? So if we're not generating something, their team really goes deeper into finding out like why or what can we do different. So having that personal relationship on a bigger scale has been very helpful for our company.
And I have to say, Fayez, and I do apologize if I mispronounce your name. You have the coolest name ever, but it's like I need a badge to be able to pronounce it right. When we first had our conversation, number one is I met you at another conference, and by the way, Dax was the award winner for the best booth ever at a conference. So they're really, really good at their design and their architecture and what they do. But what really resonated with me when I had my sponsor interview with you was you looked at me straight in the eyes and you said, SOS must succeed. Sites, we absolutely need our sites to have a voice. We need to have this happen. And then after that, everything else just fell into place. It was, I talked to you about site affordability of affording a budget. And you said, we will work with them. Even sites with some of the smallest budgets, we will do what we can for them and then scale them into what we can do. But the most important thing that I really liked about what you told me was it feels like Dax is doing a very holistic approach to a site where we as sites are getting budgets by the study, but Dax is much more about building the brand of the entire site. The entire site, from website to brand development to awareness to community, it feels like that's kind of the direction that they're going. Would you like to discuss the holistic approach that you're doing for your site clients?
Of course. So when we are thinking about DAX, how do we come into play? So when you search any marketing company, especially for clinical research, the scope is very limited to that. Hey, I will come in, I will do a patient recruitment, just a lead generation ad. You will get so and so leads. Give me like this much budget that can be passed on from the sponsor, but there's no longevity. How many companies have you seen grow from just running a lead generation advertisement? Not many, right? So the holistic approach kind of comes into play when think of it as your internal marketing company. What would you expect from an internal marketing company? You would expect them to work on your website. You would expect them to work on your social media. You would expect them to be your digital or online voice. How do you increase your digital footprint? So, case in point, Revival, when we started their website, they had a maximum of 10 views on a monthly basis. We revamped their website. Right now, I think the annual results, Nicole, we might have shared them with you. They had over 15 million impressions in 2023 on their website. Can you imagine? 15 million impressions. So that is just one part of it. So not only we are talking about giving voice to the research sites, we need to go beyond than just thinking that, oh, this is a study that I need to market. What about the brand? How are the sponsors going to know that you are a dermatology site sitting somewhere in Tennessee, and like what are you doing? What are your capabilities? So that holistic approach goes from the website, it goes into social media, it ultimately goes into the study lead generation as well. But like we have to get out of this mindset of a very short-term gratification that I get these leads, I bring in these 10 patients, 5 patients, I'm done. No, because when you grow overall now, like for example, from the website, if some client like Revival, if they're getting like 100 leads, these are people who are actually on there. So not only are we getting them the leads on their website, but then our team really analyzes the traffic on the website as to where people are going from one place to another. Where are they stopping? What is stopping them? What are different activities they can start? What are the different marketing objectives that they can achieve? So we work with them on various things, like not just like flyers, brochures. I think 2 years ago, and that's something that we spoke at one of the other conferences about, was community outreach, diversity. Revival has one of the most diverse patient populations in the clinical research space. Why? Because they're going out into the market. And where does DAX come into play is when Nicole says, "Hey, Faiz, I have this event coming up, and I want to go there. What are my steps from digital perspective?" So rather than one-way communication of a clinical research company telling me I need a flyer, it becomes a two-way communication of us discussing a strategy that, okay, you're going here. You're going to need your promotional materials. You are going to need, you might need a software. So we developed a software for them specifically for these events that they can gather a lot of patient data, and then they can call them and convert them. Then we also work with them on getting the booth design. If you see Revival at one of the events, you will see their booth, which is very, very vibrant, looks good. They get a lot of leads. So we work with them holistically on the strategy first, rather than as a means to an end that, oh, you need a flyer, let me create you a flyer. No, we work on a strategy, and then the flyer comes into play, then the social media marketing comes into play, then the website comes into play, and everything accordingly. Hope that answers your question.
Oh, that answers it beautifully. I love that holistic wrap around the site approach. It's not about a study, it's about the actual site and building that site up. Brad, have you ever seen something like this on a site facing level?
No, and I was going to sort of ask. I mean, I sort of have my suspicions about the answer, but like how, as you talk to more people, you see sites and how they're doing their digital marketing. I know like this is something we've struggled with, so we should have a conversation offline sometime. But I mean, how well as a whole are sites really executing on something like this? I'm assuming sites are generally not doing a good job when it comes to their overall branding and digital marketing footprint as a whole. Would that be fair to say?
Of course, totally. I think majority of the sites that are there, like I said, they have a very short-sighted approach. And one of the things that you miss out on is the overall brand building. So if somebody like Revival and when we started working with them, if they had only a few sites, so it's not about just getting the patients, it's about getting the sponsor, it's about getting your name out there, it's about building trust. When you have subjects coming onto your studies, they're not just coming for the call center person that made the call to them or the Facebook ad that they saw. They're coming because they trust that this site is going to give me proper care. The site is going to, what knowledge do they have? So just the blogs that we write out for some of our customers are so extensive that they have thousands of views. When you search something like you may have a disease, let's say you have a Crohn's disease study with you, right? How are you going to get the subjects? First way is that you just run a Facebook ad. But the people who actually need the trials are the ones who have no options, not the one that you're just showing the ads to. What I mean by no options is people who are going online and searching cures for Crohn's disease, or somebody who's searching what is Crohn's disease, what are the treatments, what are my options. And that's what we do, which is that we go in and we really try to help the community through these sites. And then these sites reap the benefits because the community trusts them, because they are the voice for the problems that they are trying to solve.
Yeah, I think that's huge. I mean, I think even again, I get caught in this trap too of like you're just working on a study at a time, and it can be hard to try to remember not just the what, but like the why, right? Which is, we're here to serve our communities. We're here to make, breakthroughs and help contribute to breakthroughs in drug development. We're here to help patients. So to be able to have and build something that's more robust and not just here's a study, be in it. Here's a study, please be in it. Not just, I think going through that process is probably great for sites too, because they really have to re-examine things like community outreach and, their branding, what kind of, they want to be trusted in their community. So having to sort of think through that is probably, I mean, Nicole, you can certainly chime in, but like, I find those are the exercises that oftentimes kind of reground me as a site, right? Like, oh yeah, this is why we're doing this.
Yeah, I think, and like what I was saying before, there's a lot of things we didn't think of before they came and started asking all these questions, so it really opened you up to like, oh, there's a lot more to just running an ad. We are big on doing community events, but partnering with them for them to help, promote the event online so people know that we're coming there is another thing that they do, right? So, and we're not focused on going to an event and pushing our studies. We really try and get out and do educational things. Like a lot of people have misconception about clinical trials. So just going out, educating people, having our material with us, because not everybody does see us online. So a lot of people that we meet, they're like, oh, we didn't even know, like, yeah, I live right around there. I didn't even know you were there. So it's just another avenue instead of having, digital, yes, we're still promoting that we're going there, But like they said, they design our booths. We look nice. People want to come up there and talk to us. And then we have all of the information as needed. It's not like a push to recruit or how many people are we going to screen or randomize from this. But the more that you, like you said, build that trust with the community and educate them, and they know that you're there for their good, the more people will come to you, or they'll know somebody that has an indication that they'll want to refer to you, right? So that's a big part of what we do. But yeah, I think Dax is very creative. So I still remember that first day when Faiz was asking me all of these questions, and I'm like, why does he want to know all this stuff? But he was really just trying to make sure he understands us and our mission and our vision, and what's important to us, so that they don't push their marketing ideas on us, what they think, but they want to know, like, what do you want out of it? So they're very good at that.
So I have to ask, and this is something that is a consequence of how our industry runs. But our industry is very transactional. We are not paid to be a site. We are not paid for like the things that are general in sites to be a site. We are paid for services that are specific to a single contract. And that silo, where we have to silo our finances, this is for this study and only for this study, that even from materials and things like that, often creates a gap in a lot of the general brand development infrastructure of a site. So I guess my question is, and this is for Brad and Nicole, because you're both very successful site owners, how, if you were a beginning site, how would you start to try to pay for something to build your brand, not necessarily build up your enrollment?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is a good question for even Faiz, because I feel like there's a question I actually had too. Like, where do you start as a site? And I had this problem early on. Is like, okay, build a website, try to do community outreach. Like, it's challenging, right? Because to your point, we're not getting paid to do this stuff. Now, it's another issue, but I think this is stuff that sites need to take on and get their hands dirty doing. But we need help. We're not experts at this stuff. We're experts at executing trials. So I think it's a great question, even like what Faiz has seen and what you've done, Nicole. Like, where do you start as a site? What's the what's get you moving in the right direction?
Yeah, I don't know, Faiz, if you want to take this one or not, but
I'll take it. I think it's a very, very valuable question, because when we're talking about the sites, one of the major challenge that happens is, okay, where is my starting point? And how do I fund this? Which would be the biggest question for any sites, that how do I create this infrastructure? Because it seems very costly. So that's what I mean, which is we don't work with way too many customers, but we work with less, and we work on a holistic approach. What does that holistic approach looks like? For example, there's Site A that has recently started. Now they have 5 studies that are coming up. What they need from the sponsors is that they have to communicate with the sponsors that, hey, this is my recruitment strategy. This is what I am going to do to be able to bring these patients, and these are the funds that we need, right? But that strategy has to be very concrete. That has to be actionable, and you have to be accountable afterwards as well. So Dax works with sites free of cost until you even, like, we give the strategy to you free of cost. And then once only you have the financial means to execute that strategy with us, that's when, then we do a contract to do it. Coming from the very starting point, from a site that has just started, I think there is a little bit of infrastructure cost. Like, for example, when you are getting your space to run the clinical trials, that is the startup cost that has to be borne by the site. It is not study specific. Again, like for example, marketing, this is not study specific, but that has to be there for your brand name to be out there. I've seen so many sites that say that, oh, I have spent X amount to build my website, right? And for them, it's like, oh, I saved the extra amount that I could have paid for a very dynamic website. But when I see how many people are even going onto that website, and I see it's 5 or 10, basically the X amount that you've invested is a loss because nobody is going onto that website at all, except the people who have your link. People who already have your website link do not need your website. They already know you. The website is for the people who don't know you. So if you are making an investment, you have to be making a very informed investment to get your basic infrastructure out there. Then you need a digital partner who's going to work with you for your company in creating those strategies, in getting to the sponsor, saying these are the things that we can do for you. Is that something that you can allow us to do that? And then you need that digital media partner to also execute it effectively. Because not every strategy that we make is correct, but we are very flexible in finding the right choice for you. So, for example, let's say we have any trial. Let's say we have flu vaccine trial, right? We're running a Facebook ad, and now what's happening is that we are getting a lot of pushback from the community saying, oh, these vaccine companies are doing this, that, they're bad, so on and so forth. Now what we see is that there are different strategies that we can try. For Revival, we ran a campaign in a very remote town where there is literally not a lot of people using social media. So now you're at a standstill of what to do. So that's when we start analyzing the demographics. Again, free of cost until you actually do run the ad. Free of cost. We start analyzing the demographics to try to figure out what can work. So we did direct mail that we send out to everybody's homes in that zip code. That is one strategy. Another one we did was that we ran a TV advertisement. There was one study that was for a different customer where we did influencer marketing. So it was for a vitiligo study. A lot of the times people like that, there's very few people who would have that particular disease. And how do you even like get those people from social media? Each lead is costing you $100, $120. That's not a worthwhile investment, because for 10 leads, you might get one person who will probably come in. Or you can't be spending $3,000 for one qualified lead that you don't even know is going to randomize. So we came up with a strategy of a local influencer who had vitiligo. That person posted. So there, and I remember talking about it at a conference, and everybody around me was just laughing because they didn't even know that could be done. They're like, oh, how are you going to get through the IRB and this and that? But there are IRB approvals that you can get for it. But that's where we come in, right? Because like you said, Brad, that the strategy is not something that the site owners or the CRCs may be able to come up with. But that's where you need a company that can help you with the strategy and then the final execution in a cost-effective way.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I mean, that's even, I don't even know if this is the right usage of the word, but like truly like omni-channel. Is that a good word? I've heard people throw around as a buzzword before. Like you're
Yes.
talking TV, you're talking print. We know, from the site level, one study may work great on TV and one may not. One may work great for direct mailing, and also some may not. I love that. And actually, go ahead, Nicole.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say too, through the whole process, like everything's transparent. You get detailed reports on everything. So you know exactly what's working, what's not working. They don't just, let it run and then evaluate at the end. It's a work in progress as they go. So that's what I love about it too. It's just, you can constantly communicate and be open about like the progress of things. So we're not afraid to try new things. And so, usually it's me saying, Fayez, I have an idea, and somehow he makes it work. So him and the team.
So interesting. You said that you can put all of this together and sites don't pay until they run the ad, right? So does that mean that you can put almost like a proposal together that can be baked into the contract while you're negotiating?
Yes.
That way, it's something that can be a complete pass through to the sponsors if we can inject it at the right time.
Yes. So for the sites that don't have the financial means to have a marketing company or a marketing person to help them, we can create that strategy, that plan that can be taken to the sponsors and say, hey, these are the things that we're going to do. This is exactly how it's going to happen. This is the funds that we need. And then when you get the funds, that's when we can do the ads. And that's when we actually do the proper contract of getting you all of those, activities going on.
Yeah, that's something that they can put together. Another thing that we are now doing, because we do a lot of community outreach, is also, pushing to get some of that funded as well, which some of the sponsors are starting to do that as well. And then another thing, going back to like the website, it's not just the patients, but we've actually gotten study leads from how well they have done with our website now. So we have people reaching out, offering studies, they were searching for a dermatology clinic or whatever it may be, right? So then we pop up and they reach out to us, and we've gotten a lot of studies that way now. It's not just patients. We've actually had some physicians who are interested to be PIs with us. So there's a variety of things that come through, website traffic.
Yeah, I think that's really sort of underrated and maybe undervalued, because I don't have a particularly good website, but I've had the same experience where like I've had someone go to the contact from like, hey, we're looking for sites that came across here. I was like, wow, okay. And you never know when that one is going to lead to 10 because, you build that relationship. And it all came because, you built something that people trust and looks reliable and gives you some credibility as a site. I love that. I love that. What I'm hearing is you guys are very sort of bespoke and very sort of working, individually. It's not like here's the plan, here's the one cookie cutter way, which I find as a site, I love to work with vendors and solution that are that way, right? Because we're all so different. Your community better than anyone else. So being able to sort of, work very closely with sites is huge. And then I'm going to keep rambling for a moment, but I also wanted to ask, and you kind of touched on it a little bit, are you seeing sponsors be more open? I know some sponsors are more open to paying for these things directly as pass-throughs. Now, I also want to say this because I think sites have a really bad habit of only wanting to do things that have direct line item, one-to-ones in a budget. But like, I think sites, we need to be investing in ourselves, and this is part of that in a longer term capacity. And yeah, it may not have a perfect line item in a budget, but I'll spend the money if I know that it's going to help us achieve our mission. So that being said, I don't want to make that a big deal breaker for sites, but are you seeing sponsors become more comfortable with taking on those costs, or sort of taking that risk, Nicole?
Yeah, no, I think that they are. And even if it's not listed there, it's worth asking, because if you can set, the stage for them of what you're planning to do, what you've previously done and your results, they're more amped to, actually give you that funding or give you some funding towards it. So I think we need to just be asking more, and having that laid out, like, what does, this is the funds that we're asking for. This is what all is entailed. This is our expected outcome. So I think if you can propose it to them in that way and justify it, then you're more likely to get something. Because we've talked to, maybe we've had a study that's maybe a little bit more difficult to recruit for. If you actually talk to them and tell them your challenges, or, hey, you're thinking this, they're like, oh, like, well, why don't you write something up and send it to us, right? So I think you just have to take the initiative to ask, think outside the box. And I think that's one thing with DAX is, we might not have the answer, but we might have a problem, and then they'll come in with some type of solution or what we could try and do. So that's what I like. We can brainstorm together, and they help us meet that end goal.
I have to ask, Nicole, and I have a gut feeling, but how soon did you realize a return on investment when you started working with DAX?
I would say maybe within the first year. Like, once I started understanding like where we're going and how we were benefiting from it, I could see that. I mean, every year since has just been better and better, and we come up with more ideas, or I give Pius more ideas that I would like to incorporate. But yeah, definitely it didn't take long, especially from where we were. We were a site trying to do our own thing and run our own ads, and just had somebody somewhere building a website that was not very functional. So I think after a few months of like understanding what they could bring to the table, we wanted to, push it even more and push it even more. And so that's what we continue to do.
And same question for Fayez. I know it's not an overnight fix. I know it takes some time to see traction, to see movement. On average, how soon do you see a return on investment for the sites that you work with?
I think the question is a little bit broad in the sense that it depends on the services, right? So if you've hired DAX to run a lead generation advertisement, you would see the results right away. I will be able to tell you that this is how much money you will be spending, and this is the possible return, and you will be able to see it in next week. When we're talking about SEO, it's a more long-term process. It might take anywhere between 4 months to 1 year to actually get a decent result. For example, just like talking about Revival, I think one of their other brand is Revive Research Institute. So we started doing search engine optimization for both of them at the same time. Revival took off within the first 6 months. It went up to like about 1 million impressions a month. Revive took off in a year, but right now it is producing more web traffic than Revival. So it may vary from one point to the other, but the way that you should see a return should be in the means of overall effectiveness of the company, as well as the type of services that you have taken. So some results may be right away, some results may be long term, depending on what activities we are doing for you.
So I wonder, Brad, I'm sitting here thinking I'd love to do a little exercise if you're open to it. So let's say you call Fayez and you said, "Hey, I'm a site." Give him like a scenario, a challenge, and let's see if he can on the spot put together just a gut feeling. This is what we could do to help you. Would you
So I
up
mean,
for
this,
doing
this
that?
is yeah. And here's still something I sort of struggle with in my own mind is we kind of touched on it, but having a website that we are sort of trying to appeal to maybe like three different groups of people, right? So patients, sponsors and CROs, which are another bucket, and the third bucket might be physicians that we're interested in potentially bringing in. So how can you build something that's not so busy that people get lost, but still contains all the relevant information? And I see this all the time. I go to websites for sites, for research sites, and I'm like, this is a mess. Like there's too many tabs. There's too many. The menu's got too much going on. But I mean, maybe let's start there. Like, is that something you can address and build out that makes sense for a site? Something clean but still robust enough to reach all three sort of targets.
Of course. So I think the quantity, number one, is not something that we should worry about when we are quantity of pages, and the quantity of links is not something that we should worry about when we are building a website. But what we should worry about is how do we categorize it. For example, Amazon, right? There are millions of things on Amazon, but everybody knows what to find because they're going onto the website, they're searching for things, or they're going into categories and they're finding things. So the most important things when you are building a website for a clinical research site is to first know who are your stakeholders, who are you trying to reach to. And then you have to talk, and then you have to see that, okay, what do they need? Not exactly just not having the content for the sake of having the content, but having the meaning behind it. So one of the things that we do is that even if you run a study lead generation ad with us, one thing that we do is that we take extensive information about you, about who you are, what is your mission, what is your vision, what are you trying to achieve, what kind of demographic you're trying to reach. So when you have a website that we are building, there's a lot of back and forth, which is to first understand who you are and who are you trying to appeal. I understand that the three categories remain the same for almost all the research sites. There's the sponsored CROs, there's the patients, as well as there's PIs, possible PIs. But the point is that what information do you put out there, which is important. First, there has to be clear categorization right on the top page. You have to have for patients, for sponsored CROs, for physicians. But the main problem that happens where it actually becomes clunky or becomes too heavy is when there is no useful information in there. When you're writing the same thing, chat GPT, or just basic information that, oh, you're a patient, you should enroll and so and so and so. What information are you giving them? What information are you giving the CROs? For example, for Revival, there is a very robust module that we created. It is a custom module that is created for any time that a sponsor comes in. They can go onto their website, they can see like what PIs do they have, what are their specialties, what is their experience, what information, what type of trials they have done. And then they have some links that they send out to the sponsors that contain even more information: what achievements they've done, what are their patient demographics, what how many site staff do they have, what are their titles, what kind of equipments do they have. But these are so many things that, and you can make it as complex or as least complex, but the point is that it's not about quantity, it's about the relevance of information. The more relevant it is, the better.
Yeah, and our website has the search feature on it at the very top on the homepage too. So I think that's helpful if you're looking for something specific. Then it'll pull up like pages relevant to your search. So if you are concerned about it being too much.
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. I think that's something early on, at least, the concept struggled with, because you want it to be as simple as possible, I think, for patients. You don't want them to be digging through all these crazy about sections or whatever. You want it to be boom, bing, bang, boom, fill out your info.
Yeah.
Get it there as
Otherwise,
quickly.
they're frustrated and
Exactly. They're
they
gone.
just leave. Yeah.
Okay. Yes. No, the more, I think simplicity, just for having simplicity, is difficult, because then you're not even giving them the right information. It has to be simple, 100%. That is a component of the website. But another component of the website is, are you giving them the right call to actions? Are you giving them the right information that allows them to take the action that they were supposed to take, or that they came in there to take? That's important.
Yeah, that's a fair point. And I think that can sometimes at least feel like a hard line to walk sometimes as a research site. You don't want to blast somebody with too much, because these things get very complex. And again, they're gonna be like, oh, what the heck? Too much. But you want to give them enough, to your point, that they actually know what they're signing up for or what they're inquiring about, which, I've seen it happen too far both directions, and neither is good.
Yes, agree. I have to have the right balance for it. Yes.
So, wow, all I have to do is say, wow, what an amazing experience. Let's dig into one quick question, and we're going on 20 minutes to go, but we have plenty of time. The first thing I should say is, and I think Brad and Nicole would agree, that eventually the objective would be to create such a successful site with such a margin that you can reinvest into your digital marketing strategies. So it's all about being a responsible budgeter. It's all about being a responsible business, and then reinvesting that money into creating something that could improve your business. I have a question for you, and here's the big golden question. After everything that we've been talking about, what are you doing right now to save our sites?
A question for me? Well, one thing that we are doing right now to save the sites is that the approach that we have is very different. And that's something that I personally and my company resonates the most with Save Our Sites is to give the sites an option, to give the sites a way that they can raise their voices, number one, as well as to grow. Because ultimately, for every single site, it is important to be able to become a bigger site. The bigger site that you are, the bigger your name is, the bigger your margins are, and eventually that you can prosper. So the holistic approach that we are doing is really helping the sites, because every single customer that we are working with, we are really making sure that we help them get to their end goal. So one of the first questions that I ask during an onboarding meeting is, what is your goal? What are you trying to achieve from this transaction? Or what are you trying to achieve from this relationship? And we work very hard to make sure that you get to that goal, because I can have a different mindset. I can have a different goal in my mind. But if that is not the same as what you are trying to get to, then basically I've done nothing for you. And what we are doing to save the sites is to really help them in this market where obviously you have low margins and you don't really know what to do in terms of marketing, right? We are giving you like free of cost strategies. You can do like some discovery calls to understand what can be done for your site, and we are giving them the opportunity to at least get some sort of idea of what could be. And a lot of companies are taking advantage of that, and the sites that we work with, we have high retention rates because we are embedded in the sites and we are working as part of like as an extension for you.
Yeah. And Brad, I think that you could resonate with this, but I've never heard of a company have a mission statement like that.
No, I mean, ultimately, I mean, it's about being able to be a better business. I know that doesn't sound, necessarily always right, but like that's frankly, if we want to succeed, we have to do better business as sites. I mean, it's part of SOS, right? Is like making us more self-reliant, being able to do, because a lot of times, it's easy to rely on central campaigns to get study leads, but again, how much do we talk about lack of awareness, lack of education, something sites need to be able to take on themselves? And frankly, I consider myself very tech savvy. I've built websites before, but even I need help like with this type of thing. These guys are experts. They know what they're doing. Sounds like they take an incredibly personalized approach, which again, I think is super smart when it comes to research sites. So like it's an easy sell for me. I mean, it makes perfect sense. And I think this is something sites need to do better. I'm including myself in that conversation. So I love it.
And I can vouch for that too. Unfortunately, a lot of times sites, they'll start on a shoestring and they'll prioritize operations. They've got to get the trial, got to get the PI, got to get the coordinator. Finance and marketing are the two things that take the back burner until they get a little bit of extra money lying around. And then when they do finally have the money, then they can start to think about that. Isn't it amazing how beneficial it would be if sites were to somehow prioritize that brand development in their community to enhance enrollment on their trials, like immediately, well, not immediately, but to enhance the enrollment on their trials, to optimize the potential margins of their current trials. How much, I mean, just imagine how much of a margin could have been left on the table, if not never developed, without the marketing that was developed for Revive. What do you think, Nicole? How much do you think was the return after finally getting a good community presence with your brand?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know exactly on return, but I think just working with them, spending something to get people in the door, and then we are very customer obsessed. So when they're walking through that door, we're really capitalizing on every patient that comes through that door, making sure that they have an enjoyable experience. And the Index has worked with us just to put things at our sites that look nice and promote other things. Like for us, we're multi-site. So we have like a lot of patients that may come into one site and then refer somebody to another site of ours because they find out that we do more. So you're not just looking to, market and get patients for those studies, but it's so much more than that, because every time you get a patient interested, whether they qualify or not, the experience they have with our company, they could go and tell 10 other people, even if they didn't qualify, right? But if you make an enjoyable experience for that patient, that speaks volumes, right? And then there's so much more that comes back after that. So you do have to spend something. I think that Dax also, like he said, works with you, doesn't charge you things right up front. So I think that was like kind of our decision to say, okay, are we going to do it? Are we going to jump in? Like, if you want a result, you got to do something, or your result is zero. So I think we were just kind of testing it out. And then we kind of took the leap of faith to go all in and do these things that are not normal for most sites. and just see how it works and see what's working. And then we started to see different outcomes and things that we didn't expect. Like I said, people reaching out to us through our website, offering us studies like, oh, we didn't even have to do any, like we were just there. They made our presence known. So I think you have to spend a little to try things out and see what works. I mean, every site is different too. So, what I say might not work for Brad, right? And vice versa. But that's when they come in and they use their expertise to really understand the community that you're in, understand your site, your patient population, the studies that you have. And the more that they know, the more that they can help you in your specialties. And they have a lot of, especially with us, because we're multi-therapeutic. So all of our sites are different. So they have a lot of expertise in different areas. So it's not like, they've only done dermatology and cardiology and things like that. They have a wide arrangement of, women's health, oncology, endocrinology, psychiatry, neurology. So we do all of those things. So they are very exposed to all different indications, which is, I think, something that they can also bring to many sites. And then having those metrics of what they've done before for those indications is another good thing for sponsors to be able to pay for, the things that you're requesting. They're somebody who's already been doing it. It's not like they're just, for the first time doing a psychiatry ad for you or marketing and things like that. So I think having that backing for you to go to the sponsors and ask for something with a company like that is going to help sites.
Yeah, we definitely see that. I mean, if you can come with at least some kind of metrics, I mean, that can go a long way towards getting you, maybe some money thrown your way to get that done. And sometimes the bar is surprisingly low, as much as I hate to say it, but in terms of like, look, yeah, we spent $5,000, but we got 3 screens. For some studies, that's great. That's huge, right? So I think also sites need to not be afraid to try that out, because you don't know. The worst thing they're going to say is no. And, maybe if you're willing to make the investment yourself, it's probably still worth it financially. Again, I think that's awesome. I had another question, but I went on a rant there and lost it.
So, and I'm just confirming because I think Nicole kind of answered this, but like even in the networks, the multi-site networks under the same brand logo, it sounds like you do a deep dive into each community site and then also build a brand around the network itself. Is that in essence kind of what was done with you, Nicole?
Yes, exactly. So company branding and then specific, details down to our sites, where they're located, what are their studies, what patient types are they looking for? So those are all separate things. So we're running both things, right? We're doing study specific things, and then we're also just doing company branding. So we do like you said, blogs, organic posts. So every post isn't about a study or come to our site, right? It could just be educational or informational, or just even a post on our employee or something like that. So it's an overall approach about branding and getting our name out there. And then there's also a specific approach where we're actually targeting populations of people for specific trials in the different areas that we work.
I've been saying that for a long time. If you come up to a patient for the first time to ask them to join a trial, you are too late. They have to know about you before a trial is on board. They have to know about you as a community expert so that they will be coming to you. And it sounds like that goes back to the whole holistic approach.
Correct.
And I've seen a lot of sites just come up and say, hey, we have enrollment ending next month and we don't have any screenings. And now I think a lot of sponsors and CROs are really tightening up the ship in making sure that, hey, we gave you a study. You promised you're going to bring in 2 patients. Where are they? And what was your strategy? What did you do? So when you're talking about a holistic approach, it is more important that before the study even starts, before your SIV, you have a plan in place. You know exactly what you're going to do, and you can bring in patients. For Revival, I think a lot of their studies, they're able to bring in their first patient within the first week of activation. How many companies can say that? Not a lot, because they have that strategy in place in finding out the right patients, running the campaigns, getting those leads, scheduling them beforehand. And a lot of these trials, especially something like a vaccine trial, you may only have 2 to 3 months to enroll patients. So if you are getting started after you get a study or after you get a notification from the sponsor that, hey, where are all the patients you promised, you've already lost the race, unfortunately. You start running after they said go. So you have to be prepared beforehand, and that holistic approach comes into play because you are ready to run, you're ready to get going, and that creates a lot of repeat business for you as well. Because a lot of sponsor is not going to come back to you if the last trial that you said you wanted to that you said you're going to recruit 10 patients and you only got them 1 or 2. So that really helps you go above and beyond, not just reliant on your EMR or just a PI's database, or just like communicating with the sponsor to get the central campaign. But it actually goes a long way in creating your own database. I think a lot of the patients revival now has a very strong database that they can call and bring those patients in before even like they get the activation, so they can schedule them beforehand.
Yeah, and I think we start early ourselves in just communicating with the DAX team. Like, this is a study, we were selected, even though they have, sponsor will have their own materials and it's IRB approved. A lot of times we like to create our own with our own style, so it's consistent to what the communities are used to seeing with our logo. And so we'll kind of replicate that, and then we'll get sponsor and IRB approval and run those instead of what's provided to us by the sponsor. So I think that also helps get our name out there and people are familiar with us. Like, oh, this is Revival. Like, yeah, I would, some people might prefer to come to Revival versus something that they don't know.
Yes.
I'll go back to your example about utilizing a community influencer to get patient recruitment. I mean, it's so creative. And you said there was an IRB approval for that?
Yes.
All right. So
if you talk to some IRBs, they do that. They have a plan for influencer marketing.
When do you think we're going to see influencer marketing and recruitment in the metaverse?
Oh, that's a tricky question. I think there's a lot of regulatory hurdles for that in particular. I know that influencer marketing is something that is that is not even utilized as much in clinical research company at the moment. So first thing would be that with the platforms that we have, that we start utilizing them to speak about how many celebrities do you see even promoting clinical research? Not a lot. How many celebrities do you see promoting other lines of businesses? Every single one. But that's the thing. So these are baby steps. A majority of the listeners today might not even know that, oh, there's an influencer marketing that we can do for research. Yes, there is. But that's the thing. So I think for your question, I think we have a long way to go before we get into metaverse and getting in there. But right now, I think it's baby steps.
Well, I mean, I'm looking at a couple influencers right now here. We'll see if they can start to promote some clinical trials. We're going to wrap up here. And believe this or not, I've been asked this 5 times about your company.
Oh, wow.
Is your company a reference to Star Trek?
Reference to Star Trek.
I see Nicole laughing. Yeah, seriously. Seriously.
That's not what I thought you were going to ask. So I have no comment though.
So in Star Trek, in one of the series, there is an alien called Dax. DAX.
No, not at all.
And the interesting thing is Dax is a symbiote that joins with another species. And this Dax is very ancient and goes through multiple hosts of these symbiotes, where Dax sits there and supports that other species. They provide knowledge, they provide guidance, they provide judgment to that. And so that a lot of people said that they were wondering, they've been asking if you reference Star Trek with that. Maybe it's possible Star Trek reference Latin. I don't know. But I think you may have that coming up to you if you come to SOS. Come to SOS and someone might be asking you that.
Just lie and say, yeah, you did that on purpose.
I think that's a good idea. You've given me a good marketing pitch. I will
Well, you
start-
say, wait, do you like Star Trek? Because if you do, then yes.
Yeah,
I do.
exactly. That's what I was
If you
saying.
don't,
Yeah, so
you
you're
don't,
either
then-
embarrassed that you know about it, or
Oh
you
yeah,
know.
oh yeah, totally. I had no idea about it. I think this is the first time I heard about it, and this is a good marketing pitch. I think we can use it next time. But no, that's not something that we had thought of before. It's just that when I was naming the company, I was thinking about a good way to name it, and what resonated the most with me was auxilium word, but and I said, okay, so auxilium, we can't call it auxilium. Let's call it digital auxilius. Let's try to put our spin onto the name. And then I started telling people that my company name is Digital Auxilius. And people would be like, what? Auxiliary? And then I was like, okay, I need to come up with a short version of it. So we just came up with DAX. That was the story.
I love it. I love it.
Yes.
So let's go and wrap it up. Brad, did you have any final questions, last words about DAX? Like, what did you learn today?
No, I mean, this is great. I think this is the kind of thing that, I'd love to see, and I'm talking partly to myself here, but sites do more investing in themselves through channels like DAX, because I think, again, the way they work with sites is like perfect. It's what sites need. I don't think it's easy to do out of the box. So I think having that level of personalization is huge. So I mean, I would definitely, suggest people reach out and talk to Faiz. I think I'm going to get a call set up with him after this so that I can talk to him about getting our house in order when it comes to this kind of stuff. So something I'd love to see sites put more focus on. So no, I love it. I thank you guys so much for coming on today.
Yep, and I can say the same, Faiz. I've got a lot of sites in the network who could really use your help. It's just a matter of convincing them that they need your help.
Of course. And no, thank you so much. It's been amazing. I think it was a very good discussion, and we have our mission straight. I think we have our mission that is very clear, that we are here to help the sites. We're here to work with the sites and help you develop. And there's a lot of companies that we are developing that are very on their initial stages, and I want them to be the next Revival. I want them to be the next leader in the clinical research space. And we're very passionate with the companies that we work with, because it's not just another account. You won't see us on a lot of central campaigns, because we seek challenge. We seek a company that is just starting, that is willing to invest, that is willing to grow and work with us, and we want to associate ourselves with the success of these newcomers, with the success of these smaller sites that really become big, and we can write the stories. I mean, I can write 100 pages on Revival, what we did. It's been three and a half years almost, and I remember where we started. I remember the old logo of Revival. I know that every time I tell Nicole, she makes a very weird face, like, oh, don't remind me of that. But that's the thing, and I love that, and I love what we've done, and I and my whole team, we love what we do with research sites in particular.
So, Faiz, are you coming to SOS?
Oh yes, definitely.
All right. So,
yes.
So one more question, one more request. Can you tell the audience something about yourself? Doesn't have to be about research, so that it's a nice little icebreaker conversation at SOS.
Oh, of course. Something about myself. I love playing soccer. So apart from working, that's the one thing that I really love doing. I have games like almost every other day. So I play competitive, and I am workaholic, but that's the one thing that I take out time for.
Soccer.
Yes. That's it.
Love it. So let's talk to Faiz about soccer. Nicole, are you coming to SOS?
I am coming, so I will see you there as well.
Can you tell us something about yourself?
Oh, goodness. Something about myself. Everybody knows here I am a workaholic, so I unfortunately don't have too many hobbies. But I really just, what's something about myself that's not related to research? Probably Faiz even knows.
You're a mom. You love Michigan. What else? There's a lot.
Do you like cherry wine?
Cherry wine?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that I've ever had that, but maybe.
Okay. So Nicole has never had cherry wine.
Nicole has never had cherry wine.
That's a fact. That's a fact about her.
That's a fact. All right.
All right.
So
Yeah, so I'll be there if anybody wants to, talk to me about my experiences, and I'm excited to see everything as well.
all right. Well, thank you very much for everyone for coming to the Save Our Sites webinar series. I encourage you to watch this and then go talk to Faiz, talk about DAX, and get on the right track to get your site up and running for a good digital marketing campaign. Thank you so much for everyone for coming. www.saveoursites.com. Check out Dax's website below. By the way, you might recognize a logo when you go there. And we'll see you all next time. All right, bye everyone.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
guys.
Bye. Thank you.